Hey my friends, welcome back. If you've seen some of my recent videos, you might have caught that I recently completed 30 days of yoga with Adriene right here on YouTube. Now, this video is going to be about how I set myself up, how I prepared myself to actually succeed in completing 30 days in a row with 100% integrity. Not integrity meaning a good or a bad thing, but just integrity. It's either in integrity or it's out of integrity. I wanted to do this without missing a day. But my previous attempts at trying to do this very thing all resulted in failure. I probably tried 4 or 5 other times to do 30 days of yoga with Adriene, and I failed every single time, and I usually didn't get past the 3rd or 4th day. Yeah, I didn't get too far. So I have 2 reasons for making this video for you. And the first is that if you would like to do something like yoga, and if you'd like to take it on for a specific duration, I believe that my sharing with you how I conceived in my mind of going about it this time that made it finally work, that allowed for me to stay on track and to finally succeed after failing 4 or 5 other times that I tried before. Because if they helped me, they probably will help you too. The second reason I'm making this is that even if you don't want to do yoga for 30 days, or even if you do, but let's just say you do or you don't, it doesn't really matter. There are other things like me that I'm sure you would really love it, that you could see the benefit that you'd possibly gain if you could make them a regular part of your life, but you've had trouble figuring out how to do it. Because I believe that what occurred to me to do in terms of making it work with yoga can be applied just about anywhere. You just want to get better at staying the course of something that you'd really like to stay the course on because you know it would benefit you in whatever ways you've already conceived of that it would, then this video is for you, and that's coming right up here. Tip number 1. I just got really deflated and upset with myself that I let myself fail the first 4 or 5 times. And yet there were valid reasons, or at least I believed that I saw valid reasons as to why I didn't make it the first 4 or 5 times that I tried. One of them is that I have tended to get regular migraines. The point leading up to when I started my 30 days of yoga on this run, I was getting about 1 migraine a week. And they're pretty bad, like really bad. Like my eyes are killing me, and it's hard for me to do anything.
Migraines are a typical issue for me, something I could foresee knocking me off track. What in your life are things that you can foresee doing the same? If there's anything, type yes in the comments below.
And sure enough, doing yoga, moving around like that, not so much gonna like be a fun thing with a migraine. And I know that that was some of the reasons why I was knocked off course in the past. Other ones were just life stuff. You know, we all have things that come up, and things that we don't even know are going to come up, or even they may be things within our schedule that just happen on certain days of the week or at certain times. And we know that the very fact that they exist is likely going to be a reason why we fail at what we're setting out to do on those days. And those types of things were reasons as to why I failed within the first 4 or 5 times that I had set out to do this. So what I did this time was I was faced with the fact that I was very disappointed. I was somewhat angry at myself. I was a little sad, just disappointed that I couldn't seem to manage to do something for 30 days that I knew would be of tremendous benefit to me. And so one of the things that I have learned long ago that we as people tend to do, and I've done it in the past, is if we think to ourselves or say to ourselves, I don't have this, or I can't do something because of this, that's it. Like, that's the end of story. If I say I don't have something, my mind isn't even going to look for maybe something else I might have that could work. Or maybe I do have that thing and I'm just not even remembering. But if I say I don't have it, and that's just, it's end of story in my mind, that's it. It's end of story in my mind. Like, there's nothing else going to happen there. It's done. It's shut down. So every time that I had gone into trying to do my 30 days of yoga, I knew that the migraines were going to be a problem, and yet I went into it hoping that somehow by miracle I was just not going to have a migraine for 30 days, but knowing that with the way that things have been for the past few years, that was probably not likely going to be the case. But I had failed to really address that going into it the first 4 or 5 times. I don't remember if it was 4 or 5 times, but that's how many times I had tried going into a 30-day straight run of yoga and failed every time. And this was one of the reasons why. Inevitably, I would wake up with the migraine, and that would be it. End of story. So this time, I went into it. Before I started, I said, what am I going to do on the days I get the migraines? Do you see the difference? Before, my dialogue had been, well, I can't do it on days I get migraines, so I hope I'm just not going to get any. Yeah, that didn't work out. Okay. So what I did this time, like I said, was I said to myself, chances are I'm going to probably get a few migraines. If I keep at the rate I've been at about 1 per week, I'm probably going to maybe get 4 within this 30 days. What am I going to do? What's my game plan? How am I going to do yoga on those days? Now, because I've asked it that way, my mind is going to come up with possible solutions, possible answers to this question, right? So what flashed in my mind was an image of the Shavasana pose. Shavasana is, where you're lying on your back. It's what they do at the end, especially if you go to a yoga studio. This is not always how a yoga video ends. In fact, a lot of times they don't. But if you go to a yoga studio, well, truthfully, I haven't been to one class yet in a studio that did not end in Shavasana. So you're lying on your back, your legs are open just a little bit, your feet kind of turned out, your arms are out to, a little bit of an angle away from your body a little bit, and your palms are up. It's a really relaxing pose. It really helps your body. It helps your body relax. It helps your spine. I actually saw a video about an older woman who was getting one of those dowager humps on her back, like her back was really curved over, and she had tried all kinds of things to alleviate the pain that she was in because it was causing her a lot of pain. And nothing was helping. All the doctors, the medicines, like nothing was really helping. She found a yoga teacher, and the yoga teacher actually began all this woman's classes just by putting her in Shavasana, so that that lump on her back was just settling against the floor, and her body weight was just melting into the floor. And in a few sessions, the pain was starting to get relieved, and she actually reclaimed a lot of her mobility over some time, over some months. Then she was actually doing like more of the yoga poses and stuff like that. So we should not discount Shavasana. And what flashed in a picture in my mind after I asked that question was, if you have a migraine that bad, lie in Shavasana for, however long, 10, 15 minutes even, whatever, just relax. And I thought, yeah, I can do that, because if my headaches are bad enough, I'm in bed. Some of them are not that bad enough, but they're pretty bad that I'm pretty much cut off from my computer. I'm pretty much cut off from working that day. I'm pretty much cut off from driving. I'm pretty much cut off from a lot of things. But sometimes they're not that bad that I have to actually lie down and go to bed. So I knew that even if they were the vicious kind, I could lie in Shavasana. So I'm like, okay, great. So that's my biggest obstacle. That's the thing that could knock me off the most. And now I have a way to overcome that. The first 4 or 5 times I went into these 30-day runs, I didn't have a game plan. My hope had been that I'm not going to get a migraine. Yeah, that didn't work, like I said. Tip number 2 is that Pick a time that you believe that most days you could do it at that time, or within the flow of those things. Even because I don't have to set an alarm within the work that I do, so I wake up when the sun comes and wakes me up, and it's usually around the same time, but sometimes it fluctuates, and sometimes that work I do is an hour and a half, sometimes it's 2. So I'm not doing yoga at the same exact time every day, but it's in the morning, and it's after that point where I get that initial work done. Some people prefer to do the yoga right when they get up, right like first thing. For me, it feels better for me to do it after that point. But I promised myself that in general, I was going to do it after that point. But my significant other has a few classes on a couple days a week where he starts a little too early for me to make that happen. So I made adjustments around it for those days. Then I also had another game plan, because here was another thing I thought could kind of go wrong, is that sometimes unexpected things just come up. Like I mentioned in my previous video on the yoga 30 days, that someone very close to me was going in and out of the hospital a lot and then passed away 2 weeks ago. And that was very difficult. So sometimes we were getting calls. They're in the hospital again, or they really need, if you could please come and bring them this thing. So there were a couple times where it was not appropriate for me to stop and do yoga right then. So I didn't freak out in my mind. So that's a key too. Don't freak out in your mind. If something happens to offset the time you normally do it, it's not all lost, but you have to know that it's not all lost. You have to have a game plan so that you feel like you are on track and you feel like it's okay. And you have to let it be okay to vary a little bit maybe, because sometimes you can't help every single last thing. So on those days, I just promised myself that I would do it before I go to bed, even if it was the thing I did to relax before kind of going in toward that final phase of the stuff I do before going to sleep. And for those days, because that was not in my habit to do it at that time, I would ask my significant other, like, hey, could you please help me remember yoga? Like, I've already done it for like 13 days in a row, and I would be so crushed at this point if I forget and mess up. And it's easier in the morning after I do that stretch of that work that I do, because now I'm just kind of, I've started to program myself to do it in that sequence of events. Tip number 3. So that's another thing that's helpful. If you do it at the same point within your same flow of certain activities each day, it helps to ingrain it in your mind so that you're less likely to forget it, okay? So I asked for help. Now, if he was the sort that wouldn't be supportive, or he himself would maybe not remember, or maybe just not want to be bothered, I could stick Post-it notes. I could probably put a reminder on my phone. I could put a reminder on my computer. Think about which of these things could work for you, and make a game plan in advance of even when you start your 30 days. Account for the fact that something, maybe 1 or 2 of the days at least, could maybe upset the time frame or the sequence of events in which you would normally do yoga, and you may not be able to do it in that exact place. So what is your game plan going to be to help you to remember to do it at a different time? Have that figured out up front. Whatever you see is your potential problems, have them figured out up front. Tip number 4. Okay, the next thing I did was I wrote every day that I did yoga in my calendar. I got this at Big Lots. You can get a calendar wherever you like. I'm going to show you what I did because this really helped me a lot. Okay, so I started at the top in the corners so that I would still have all the space to write other things if I needed to. So look, I wrote 1 yoga, 2 yoga, 3 yoga, and I wrote this at the end when I did it each time. I didn't write it first to, I wanted it to be like a reward. So I would feel that feeling of like a reward. And I did this every day that I did yoga. And then this really helped a lot, because by the time I even got, like, I don't even hear, you know, as you're seeing the numbers go up, like, at least for me, I felt like just more and more happy and more pleased with myself, and more like I was doing it, you know, like it helped me to have that feeling of like I'm doing it, like I'm really doing it, I'm accomplishing it. And by the time I started to see some of these days stack up, then, you know, I felt more was at risk. Like the more days I had under my belt, the less likely I wanted anything to upset or make me miss a day, because then all of it would be gone. Because my goal was 30 days solid. Now, some people have made a goal to do 30 days of yoga, but they give themselves permission to take a few days off here or there along the way, and so it might take them a little bit longer to accomplish the 30 days. That's okay too. Whatever works for you, but this is what I wanted to do. I really wanted to do 30 consecutive days of yoga, and to be able to tell the tale on the other end, and to be able to share what happened for me, what the benefits I noticed have been, and all of that kind of thing, which I did in the video that I made on that. So yeah, so by the time I was, you know, down here at like 13 or so, or 14, I was up here at 14, that's when I was really, I really did not want to mess that up. Because, you know, then I really had something, I started to feel more like I had something to protect. To be able to keep my commitment to myself, and to be able to keep that happiness, that happy feeling of being, you know, happy with myself and proud of myself for staying as consistent as long as I had. You know, that's another important thing too. Is so like this really helped me a lot. This was a really good thing to do to kind of help keep me focused, to help keep me feeling motivated, to you know, to help me like have that oomph to keep going, because I could look at what I've already done and feel so happy about it, and then it made it easier to want to keep going. So I really recommend doing this a lot, because I've tried to do a lot of things consistently where I was not writing it down to where I could look at my accomplishment, and I really wasn't able to stick with those things very well. So this tool has helped a lot, and again, you can do this for anything. I've also recently gone off of sugar and some other unhealthy foods, and I have been writing that down too. I'm going to make a video on that as well. And where am I at on that? I'm at 51 days, no sugar and no junk food and some other cool stuff. So I'm going to be making a video soon, maybe on day 60, because I'm at 51 right now. I probably could have made a video 30 days into that, but I didn't. And that's okay, because it's just is what it is. Get a calendar, and I really like having one with these big squares, because you can write stuff down. Now, if you don't like a paper calendar, if you want to do it all digitally, you can do that too. Tip number 5. Adrienne each year does a 30 straight days of yoga to kick off the beginning of each year. And besides that, I believe she releases one video a week. And she's been releasing videos for several years, so there's a lot to choose from. Now, if you take the 30 days of yoga, and I was following one of the attempts I made, I was following with her in the beginning of the year. One of the things I noticed is that she does keep really good track of what she's been doing on the previous days. So like if you had on day 2, like let's say it was like really targeting the arms a lot, and then maybe other parts of the body a little bit, the next day after that, she's not going to hardcore target your arms. She's going to do something else, and your arms are going to have a little bit more of a reprieve. So the way she designs those 30 days of yoga, it overall works really well. But within that, because I can get neck discomfort and upper body discomfort at times and the headaches, I knew that I might need to make some adjustments. I also was committed to the fact that I wanted my practice sessions in general to be between 17 and like 23 minutes, I think it was that I said. I think that was my main goal. I did let it go a little bit outside that a couple times, but I did really not want yoga practices that were like 30 minutes or more. And in some of her 30 days of yoga, some of them are longer. I mean, obviously a lot of them are these shorter durations, but some of them really are into the half-hour point, a little bit past the half-hour point, and I did not want to do any of those. And like I said, I also wanted to take consideration for if I was dealing with certain pains one day, then I didn't want to necessarily be stuck into whatever was on Adrian's like plan for the day if that really wasn't going to fit me. So she also has a lot of different kind of yoga practices, a lot of different lengths. She has a lot of them that are just stretchy or getting ready for bed. And the reason I would sometimes pick getting ready for bed, even if I wasn't going to bed, is because they tend to just be more stretchy and gentle. Oftentimes they're just totally on the floor, so you're not even doing anything standing up. And sometimes I really needed a yoga practice like that. So the next, like this is the aim of this tip, is to consider whatever works for you. Again, if you want to follow Adrian or someone like her literally and do 30 days as they have it laid out, totally go for it, man, if that's what works for you. But if that is going to be a reason why you may not be able to make it in your 30-day consecutive run, consider making it okay with yourself to make adjustments. Pick a different yoga routine that really fits where you're at that day, how you're feeling. There was a couple days, like I told you, that I also had very difficult days with things that were just going on in life. And I couldn't do the yoga until later in the evening, and I was a bit stressed out. The idea of doing something even 17 minutes long upon occasion was a little overwhelming for me. Adrian actually has a few yoga routines that are for bed, that are really stretchy, that are pretty short. One is like 7 minutes and something, one is like 12 minutes. I chose those on a couple of nights. I didn't in general choose super short practices like that, but there were a couple of times within the 30 days when I did, because it's what I really needed. It was the way that I could make myself have the best chance of success in actually doing the yoga practice that day. And we have to understand that it's valid. We don't have to live by an imposed set of rules that says it has to be this long or it doesn't count. I'm not saying cop out. In no way did I let myself do like a minute of yoga to where I felt like I was copping out. But if I had at any point felt like that was all that I could do, and that was the best that I could do, then that is what I would have done, and I would have been okay with that, and I would have said, hey, you made your yoga practice today. So start paying attention to the self-imposed rules and start to realize that these are just looping programs that you got somewhere in your life, and make it okay to let them go. You can do something else and it can be okay. All right? Sometimes the key is just finding the way to be consistent. So just figure out your strategies and then use them. They're tools to kind of help you to keep going. Special bonus tip. One of my biggest tips here is find ways to succeed. Find ways to make it happen. Find ways so that you can stay on track, so that you can honor your commitment in one way or another. It's okay if you have to slide it around a little bit, as long as you know that it is okay to slide it around a little bit. If you've got hard, fast rules, consider observing within your mind that you're the one that imposed them, and you may have taken on those points of view, those rules, from somewhere when you were younger in your life, and now you're just kind of carrying forth and living by the restraints of them. I caught on eventually, my friends, that I was doing that to myself. I was hard on myself, but people were hard on me when I was young and I was growing up, and it was just never good enough. I felt never good enough. It was never good enough. I was always a failure. I had a lot of looking inside to do and a lot of reframing, and it took a while to believe a new belief. But it can be done. I worked with such things and I did it, and I'm just inviting you to just take a look at that. Just be willing to take a look at that and see if it's there. See if there's anything that you could shift to kind of give yourself a little bit of ease. It's not to let yourself off the hook to fail. It's to give yourself a little bit of ease so that you can praise yourself for what you do, so that you can win. We don't want to fail, and so we sometimes will beat ourselves up internally in our minds because we don't want to be a failure, but like, yet we're telling ourselves that we are. And then we're wondering why we're not following through, why we're not sticking with something that we set out to do. Start looking at your self-talk. I had to. And look, if at first you don't succeed, try again. I failed 4 or 5 times at trying to do 30 days straight of yoga. And I really had to devise some ways to make it a success. So do that, not only with 30 days of yoga, but 30 days of anything. Because if you want something in your life because you know it would be great for you and you know you would benefit in any of the ways you know you would benefit, you're probably going to want it to stick around for at least 21 days or 30 days or longer, because ideally you probably want it to become a habit. So set yourself up to make it work so that it can become a habit, so that it can become a part of your daily life. All right. Anyway, I hope this helps you. Let me know in the comments below if any of this is making sense to you. Let me know in the comments below things that you have tried that you've not been able to stay consistent with, and then you felt bad about it. And what did you know the benefits could have been for you, and then you were disappointed? Like, let us know. Let us know, and let me know if you got anything from this video that you believe that you could implement and try it again with either a yoga practice that you want to commit to or anything else, okay? I'd love to hear from you, and as always, my friends, have a great morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever it is you are, and I will see you back here again soon.